one cannot merely go and receive the Torah. One cannot just stand up Shavuos morning at Kriyas Torah and listen to the reading of the Torah without some type of introduction. We, of course, have the famous Akdamus Milin that is chanted before Kriyas Torah and Shavuos. This whole halachic discussion, how it's done, is the universal minhag now is to chant it before the Kohen says the bracha. If you go through the Rishonim, there were some people that chanted it after the Kohen said the bracha before Kriyas Torah. There were some people that, because this would be a hefsek, an introduction between the bracha and the kriya, would read one pasuk of the first pasuk of Kriyas Torah and then say Akdamus. There are many different minhagim about this, but it's been chanted, and I, throughout my life, chanted it many times. And the word spoke to me. Not much, a little bit difficult, it's Aramaic. When I read a biography of Rav Charlap written by one of his great-grandsons, Rav Charlap was one of the closest Talmidim to Rav Kook, succeeded him as Rosh Yeshiva of Merkaz Harav. He was a Yerushalmi. He had heard about the great tzaddik, Rav Kook, the great Talmid Chacham, when he first became the Rav of, well, even before that, before he Rav Ner Yisrael, but when he became the Rav of Yafo, before there was any controversy surrounding him, although not as much as it became after he passed away. But Rav Charlap went. He was told by his doctors he should go to the coast for his health. He went, and he made it his business to go see Rav Kook, and the first opportunity he had was Shavuos morning. And he listened to Rav Kook singing, not chanting, but singing Akdamus Milin, the words of introduction before Kriyas Torah, before receiving the Torah on Shavuos morning. And he could feel the Dveikus Hashem, the clinging to God, the intensity with which Rav Kook said these words. And he, from that point on, he became one of Rav Kook's closest Talmidim. It's very interesting that one of the other great Talmidim of Rav Kook, the Rav Hanazir of David Cohen, has this very interesting, long story, perhaps it will be told at another time. He was a very talented young Talmid Chacham, close to Chofetz Chaim. And before the First World War, he went to Germany to study science and philosophy. He got stuck in Germany, arrested as a foreign citizen when the First World War breaks out, and then he escapes to Switzerland, and he's in Basel, and becomes the associate rabbi of the city of Basel. Again, a very long story that we're not telling here. And the city of Basel sends him to a conference Rav Kook is called at the outbreak of the, not immediately, but into the First World War, to deal with the issues of Jewish refugees and so on. Rav Kook is also stuck in Switzerland at this point. And it's a place where because it's neutral, Rabbanim from the Allies as well as from the German, Austro-Hungarian empires, all of them can reach it to discuss the problems of world Jewry at this point in time. And when the Nazir arrives in St. Gellan, and he goes to where Rav Kook is staying, and they have a discussion in philosophy and in Talmud, and anyone else in the world, you'd kill him if he said it, but the Nazir wrote that he simply wasn't impressed by Rav Kook's mastery of the Talmud. by his philosophical ideas. But Rav Kook asks if he has a place to stay. And in those days, who could afford hotels? And he says no. And Rav Kook says, this house has been given for me to use. Well, I'm stuck here, and there's a room downstairs that you can have. So the young David Cohen is staying downstairs, and he wakes up in the morning, and he can hear Rav Kook pacing the room above him, singing the Akeda just before Karbanos in the morning. And he feels the longing for Eretz Yisrael as he reads, as he sings the Akeda. And from that point on, he becomes the Talmid Ne'aman of Rav Kook, the eventually editor of Oros HaKodesh, and so on. One of the Rosh Yeshiva of Merkaz HaRav, one of the founders of Merkaz HaRav, for that matter. And with both of these great Talmidim of Rav Kook, who were very involved in his learning, it wasn't the learning that drew them to him. It was his Deveikus Hashem. It's Rav Kook, who is, of course, a Litvisher Rav, Litvisher Rosh Yeshiva in one sense, has also made a synthesis of Hasidic thought and conduct in many ways in what he is, as it's this Deveikus Hashem that his closest Talmidim feel in him and draw him out. In the Masa HaTshuva, Rav Harlap wrote that he woke up one morning and he saw Rav Kook's face was burning bright. And he says, "What's wrong?" And Rav Kook says, "I am seized by the great love of Hashem, by the great desire to be with Hashem." I remember very clearly the first Shavuos I spent with my Rebbe, Rav Druckman. And I had been a Rav for many years already, and I had sung the Akdamus Milin many times. I wouldn't say sung it, I would say chanted it. Akdamus Milin b'sharusa, ivla shaklana, ha'erma urishusa. But when I heard Rav Druckman sing it, it was an uplifting event. One could not feel tired after having learned all night long and not slept. And in fact, the following day, it was such an uplifting experience that I didn't go to sleep until after lunch, meaning the yeshiva had, after Shachris, there was a Kiddush, and then people went to sleep for 4 or 5 hours until lunch in the yeshiva. And several told me the yeshiva, and slowly went down to one. We're talking and learning and different aspects of different thing. And the last 3 hours, I was learning before lunch. Didn't go to sleep until after lunch because of the inspiration of hearing how Leil Shavuos isn't a time that tires you out, but it builds you up. It grows your deveikus to God, you're clinging to God, you're wanting to meet your Hashem and feeling Hashem near you. This is what we should all feel as we learn and as we approach the Kriyas Torah on Shavuos Day. Everyone should have an uplifting Chag.